So, how much did we owe on our income taxes this year? And is it a good thing to get a large refund whenever you do your tax returns? We're going to talk about all of that and more on this live session, Marriage Inside Out tax session,
Yes.
if you will. But before we get into that, we're Khalil and AJ. I'm Khalil.
And I'm AJ.
Yes, I call her Adrian, by the way. That is her name. But yes, we share content for singles and for married couples, for young married couples, specifically to help enrich and inspire them on their marriage journey. And so on our platform, we aim to talk about everything under the sun as it pertains to marriage. So whether that is, communication or specific points in your marriage, getting ready for the wedding and preparing for marriage. We talk about finances. Obviously, we talk about a number of different things, and taxes obviously falls within that jurisdiction because this is just one of those things that, hey, if you went through some marriage counseling or if you go through some marriage counseling, probably not going to go through this. So that's where we want to come in and just shed light on some of these areas.
Yeah, and if you're new here and we haven't had a chance to connect, let us know where you're joining in from, and then also let us know what stage of life are you currently in. Are you in your single season, just being patient and waiting on that next phase of life? Are you in a serious relationship? Are you married? And if you are married, how long have you been married? We would love to be able to get to know you. We're really building a community here.
Right, exactly. And we're striving to be transparent during the session. And for those of you all who have started following us in the past few months, we just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for just subscribing to be a part of this community. And yeah, I mean, we put out a few videos on taxes last year, which have had touched on a number of different topics, and perhaps that's how maybe you all found out about us. But we want to dive a little bit deeper and again just kind of open the hood of our car so that you can see what's underneath for us, because we feel like if we don't share these things, then how can you learn? How can you grow? So we're going to talk about again how our tax process went this year. Exactly how we filed our taxes, how much we ended up owing, our thoughts on it, and then we're going to share a few tips at the end for those of you out there. So make sure you hang around until the end, because we're going to share some key tips to help make sure that you get the most out of your tax return, whether this year or even in the years to come. So make sure that you stick around for that. But let's set the stage first and foremost before we show the numbers. So last year for us came with a number of changes, good changes, if you will, to our income. So, I mean, we both ended up getting a promotion on our jobs, which we're grateful for. I mean, anything you want to share about that? Or?
I mean, so last year, 2022, we started off the year, we're both work full time. I'm in a fully remote work from home role. Khalil's in a hybrid role. And we are kind of at this mid-career phase of life. So to Khalil's point, had the opportunity to step into that next level of our pay grade in our current roles. So for me, in October, I interviewed and accepted a position to be a people leader. So I now oversee a team and also have a book of business in the learning and development and customer success lane. And it was unexpected, but we were grateful. So if you think about that when it comes to finances, basically from November on, so that's just 2 months out of the year, my income changed.
Right, exactly. And then, I mean, that was something that an amazing opportunity that came about that we didn't know was going to come about. For me, I mean, so for hers, it was more of a position. You got promoted through application for another position that had opened up. For me, it was just, just a I guess, merit-based promotion, if you will. And so that happened for me in August, which those were two firsts for us. I
Yeah.
mean, we never in our adult life, in our grown-up job, we had a number of jobs throughout our lives, but in our adult job lives, corporate lives, that was the first time we had each experienced that, which, we're grateful to the Lord for that, very humbled. However, how do you adjust and deal with those changes and that might happen in life that might affect your income one way or another, whether it's, your income decreases or whether it increases? And so, just wanted to provide that bit of context so that you all can just have that bit of background. But let's go ahead and get into the numbers.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Well, and you did actually pose a great question, though. How
Yeah.
do you deal with it,
Right.
right, when it happens? I mean, I think in the case, just to kind of share some context before we dive in the case of a promotion or an opportunity, the first step after you accept is always to take a look at your W-4, W-2, just take a look at everything.
Yeah.
Make sure
Yeah.
that everything's aligned how it needs to be, adjust where you need to adjust, so that if it happens early in the year and you need to make a major adjustment, you're able to.
Exactly. And we're going to share a little bit more about how you can do that to
Yeah.
adjust your withholdings at the end of this live and at the end of this video. So make sure you stick around. But yeah, so the big reveal, probably no secret if you've seen one of our most recent community posts, we did share this. And so this year we just filed our taxes, just about a week or two ago, and we ended up owing money. Again, we actually owed money to the IRS last year, which we did do a video on that. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you go check that out. We'll put a link in the description of this video after this live, so you can check that out, as well as up in the cards. But yes, last year we ended up owing a pretty decent amount of money, which show that to you all right now. So last year we owed $546, which, hey, depending on your perspective, that's a lot. That's a lot, not a lot. I mean, for us, we never like to owe anyone money, right? Think of the word that says, let no debt remain outstanding, but to love one another. But yeah, so we did end up owing $546, which, hey, it was a lesson learned. I mean, Adrian, the year before, had ended up switching to a new job, which she had quite a pretty big bump in her income.
Mm-hmm.
I also had a bump in my income, and like she said, it was one of those things where the year just flew by and we didn't really take the time to adjust our W-4 withholdings in order to account for those increases in income.
Right.
But we owed that the year before or in the prior year, but for this year we ended up owing just $34. All right, so hey, $512 less than last year, as you can see on the screen right here. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, I know for me, as I was kind of going through, I was doing the taxes. We do our taxes on TurboTax, as you can see here as well. But it's one of those things where I was like, well, I mean, it's not a huge refund, but at the same time, we're not owing a whole bunch of money. So, I mean, I honestly counted it as a win from my perspective. I mean, what are your thoughts compared to the prior year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always, at the end of the day, you don't want to owe. So I think the closer you can get to breaking even, which we did this year, I'm not sure how much closer you can get without just netting at zero, the better, because that means that you didn't allow the government to hold on to too much money throughout the year that you could have been leveraging, and that you had your deductions in mind. Like, you understood that you would be able to withhold a certain amount to accommodate for what was forthcoming. So, I mean, I feel great. I feel like we took what we learned last year and applied it. When the changes happened, we actually did our due diligence and looked through the accounting side of things and the ADP or, whatever it is at your org side of things as well. So yeah, I feel good.
Yeah. And you bring up a really good point, which I think is a question that we want to address and bring up because, I think in our culture, in American culture, and the way we do our taxes, we really are hung on this idea that, to get this huge refund is an amazing thing and it's awesome. And you just get, it's almost like an early Christmas gift or a post Christmas gift, if you will. But the question is it a great thing? Is it always a great thing to have a huge refund? And, why or why not? But, from what we've learned, I mean, it's one of those things, as you said, Wonder Woman, it's about addressing, okay, well, how much money or what's contributing to you getting that refund? Is it due to the fact that you were able to really take advantage of some great deductions and tax credits? Because if that's the case, then yeah, it's great if you got a good refund, or maybe you have some dependents that you're able to claim if you all have children out there. But if you're in a situation like, let's say, for us, maybe you are, married, currently DINKS, which stands for dual income, no kids, by the way, and you get this huge refund without, without it coming from any of those major deductions or major tax credits, then it begs the question, did you let the government hold on to too much of your money during that year period? And I mean, when you think about it, it's like, well, but I like the idea of getting a big refund, but it's like, well, what things might you have done or could you have done with that money over the course of the year instead of just letting Uncle Sam hang on to it? Could you have used that? You could have used that money towards, an investment or, putting it in a high yield savings account. It's just one of those things where I think in our society, we don't really address if it really is as great as we kind of pump it up to be in order to always get that very huge refund. Yeah. But yes, definitely just some food for thought there. Again, you can use the IRS tax calculator to really see exactly how much to withhold, or how much extra should be withheld from each of your paychecks, so that you're not having to play a guessing game as to how much more you should be taking out of your check each month. But just want to address that one little point. And then, one of the things that we were able to do as we were filling out our taxes is that, we were able to go with our itemized deductions versus the standard deduction. And so just to, again, show you a bit here, and if you're looking up in the number in the top left, which says the refund, so that was actually, this was actually before I had put in some other sources of income that we had. So Adrienne, actually, you had some other sources of income from last year as well that outside of your job that, again, obviously you had to account for.
For speaking and media and a few other things. I was very grateful by the grace of God, but you got to account for it. Even if it's just a couple thousand, it's really important.
Right. My wife's famous, y'all.
No, not at all.
Just in case you didn't know. But yes, so, one of the cool things about married, filing taxes jointly in marriage, which we're big proponents of, is that you get what's called a higher standard deduction. And so it's the standard deduction that basically the government or the IRS will kind of award you in a sense each year. But as you're filing your taxes, if your itemized deductions are higher than that standard deduction, then basically you can capitalize on that. So, what are some things that you typically itemize? That can be things like, any kind of interest you paid on your mortgage, a house mortgage. It could be other things like, maybe one of you all is in school, maybe one of you is in school and you're in grad school and you're paying tuition, or you're paying, let's say, back some of your student loan debt. All right, that's another way to those are further deductions you can itemize. You can also itemize things like how much you give, giving to charity or giving to your church. As you add up all of those things, if the itemized deduction amount is higher than the standard, then hey, you basically end up getting more money back. So that was one thing that we were able to do. Another thing that we were able to take advantage of is something called the sales tax deduction. And so just to show sales tax deduction, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, basically what that is it's a great deduction that or it's a great deduction that you can take advantage of if you live within certain states. And so the sales tax deduction is one of those things where if you've never heard of it, you definitely got to use it. Again, we made a video about this as well that you can check out also, which, I mean, we ended up not even learning about the sales tax deduction until just the year before. And, we were able to use it. And so yes, but sales tax deduction is one of those things where if you live in any of these states, all right, so if you live in Florida, Tennessee, Texas, South Dakota, Wyoming, Nevada, Washington, Alaska, and another one that's on there is New Hampshire, which you can't see because our screen is in front of it, then you should definitely be taking a look at the sales tax deduction. Basically, it works best in the states that don't have a state income tax, which, we live in Florida, and Florida is one of those states that doesn't have a state income tax. But in essence, what that allows you to do is to capitalize on, using however much taxes you paid on the sales of different items. It could be cars, or, if you bought a house, or even it will just estimate the amount of sales tax that you spent just based on, your income and tax bracket. It's definitely one of those things that you can really take advantage of. And so yeah. I mean, any other thoughts from you at the moment before we get into some tips? Any just thoughts on, kind of how we typically go about our tax process, or
Yeah.
just...
I mean, I would love to know from you all, if you're still with us, like, how do you prefer to file your taxes? Do you do them yourself manually? Do you outsource to advisor, financial advisor? Do you use a technology like TurboTax or some other technology? For us at this current stage with pretty simple income streams, it's been really helpful to use a platform like a TurboTax because it does remember the previous year, what we put in terms of some of that information, as long as your jobs are staying the same and you're able to just update with the numbers, but it remembers some of that base data. But there's pros to all those sides, right? Sometimes when you're with an advisor, they're able to itemize things in a way that they know some things that maybe not every system knows, right? And work things around. But would love to know what your preference is. For us, this has been super helpful and efficient.
Yeah, for sure. And it's cool to just kind of learn, some of the ins and outs.
Yeah.
Because, again, it's one of those things that we're not taught this in school, or you're not taught it before you get married unless you had a really good mentor or something like that. But, that's, again, why we're sharing this, is because we hope to, maybe relieve some of you all of just the trouble of trying to figure out, okay, how exactly do we do this together? How do we do finances together? What does that look like? But kind of as we go into this next part, just want to really leave you all with a few key tips that have really helped us, and that we feel are important to kind of leave you all with and to keep in mind as you're thinking about filing your taxes with your spouse, and in this scenario, how are you able to file them in such a way that you're able to kind of get the most out of it, whether that is, if you are shooting for getting, a big refund and really capitalizing on certain deductions and things, or, if you're really just wanting to make sure that you're, even if you don't get a huge refund, you at least just want to not owe the government too much money. You want to make sure that you're coming out at least breaking even, right? And so one of the first things we want to mention is just the importance of, you know, filing jointly in marriage is really one of the best ways to go. Again, we did a video kind of comparing filing jointly versus filing separately, and certainly there could be there are pros and cons to each, but for most couples, filing jointly really is the better route to go.
Yeah, so when you file jointly, you have an opportunity to be in that standardized deduction bracket for those dual incomes together. So that advantage is really one to consider. So there are some caveats. There are some advantages to filing separately. So as Khalil mentioned, definitely check out that video so that you can understand the nuances of both. But in the majority of cases that we've seen based on our own experience, talking to friends, and then reading some of the research, filing jointly is often most optimal for those that are in a marriage relationship.
Exactly. And then second thing is, we mentioned it briefly before. If you live in any of those states that we showed, definitely at least take a look at, but more than likely you should be taking advantage of that sales tax deduction, because again, for those states, if you have no state income tax, then there's no reason why you shouldn't really look into it. And just FYI, I mean, even if you do live in a state that doesn't, even if you do live in a state that does have a state income tax, you can still look at the potential of the sales tax deduction. If the sales tax deduction is higher than the state income tax deduction, then again, it's one of those cases where you probably could capitalize off of it. But if you live within one of those states that does have high tax rates like California and New York, the sales tax deduction might not work for you. But even if you live in any of those other states, if you bought some big ticket items, all right, think about any big ticket items that you may have bought, whether it's again, a car or a house, a boat, if some of y'all out there balling like that, or maybe you buying a ring for your significant other, or for your spouse, different things like that. Definitely take a look at the sales tax deduction. All right. And then also, again, Adrian mentioned it before, but if you really want to know or pinpoint exactly how much money you should be withholding from each of your checks every month, then the IRS has a free tax calculator tool that you can use, and it's pretty simple. And so, again, it's one of those things that will definitely kind of put you in a better spot so that you're not having to try to play a guessing game in order to figure out, how much tax you should be withholding.
Yeah, so you use the IRS pay calculator in order to make that adjustment on your W-4. Typically, you're able to go in at whatever point you need to adjust the W-4 for whatever employer you have. So it's important to just be mindful to do that as proactively as you can if your income shifts or changes.
All right. Showing a little overlay of it for you all right now. It might be kind of difficult to see, but if you go to the IRS website, you literally type in Google, and we'll put the link down below, but just the IRS tax withholding calculator. And again, it's super simple. It'll just ask you basic information. You can do this even if you're single. You don't even have to be married to do this. You can use this right now in whatever state that you're in. And, it'll kind of just walk you through, okay, what's your income amount? What's your most recent pay stub? When was that kind of process? And it'll, spit you out a number at the end. All right. And then finally, just one other key item just to leave you all with is just remembering that, a large refund may not always be a great thing. We talked about how kind of our society is and how it really touts, just the idea of getting a big lump sum of money, but it's possible that it might not be the best thing for you, or it might not always be the most beneficial, especially if you were giving or letting the government hold too much of your money, which that's money that you could have used in another way to gain interest in order to, receive more in the long run. So check out that IRS tax calculator and adjust those W-4 withholdings.
Yes,
So
for sure, for sure.
yeah. Any final thoughts you want to leave the people with, or
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I don't
no?
think so. I mean,
Okay.
I hope this was helpful for you just to kind of go behind the curtain of what we've experienced and why. If you guys have any questions, by all means, let us know in the comments and we'll come in, answer them, maybe answer them as best of our ability in a subsequent video as well. You have access to our experiences. We're just a little we're partnering with you, and we may be a little ahead or a little behind wherever you are in your journey. So we appreciate you all joining and tuning in.
Yes, and then if you all want to check out any of the other videos that we have related to marriage and finances. So, for example, if you want to see, we were able to pay off over $60,000 of student loan debt within the first 2.5 years of us being married. I had all the student loan debt, by the way. But if you want to see our step-by-step process for knocking those out, or anything else related to marriage and money or marriage and taxes, then click on either of these videos that you see over here on the right, and we will see you over there. And if this is your first time watching this, we hope that you subscribe and join us along on this journey. So we'll see you all next time.